Hi, I'm Paul from Debt Ninjas, and welcome to the Law Series.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Law Series here on Dark Matters. So, today, backed by popular demand, we have Paul Yates from Debt Ninjas. Paul's follow up book is out now, aptly titled The Big Stick, which is a continuation of his previous book, How to Get Out of Debt Without Paying a Single Penny. And the clue to both books being in the title. So, as I say, with legal processes, we have to learn how to counterclaim and or hold them accountable by their own rules. Learn how to honourably poke them with our proverbial sovereign big sticks and finish their deceptive games. So, over to the man himself. We promised to hop back on, didn't we, Paul, and have a good natter when the new book was out. So,
Yes,
here we are. We'll talk about all things debt. Probably lovely to see you again, and thanks for coming
indeed.
back on and joining us.
No problem. I'll tell you what, I'm back in England for a short time and I've not been warm since I got back. Yeah.
So, because you obviously
Yeah.
you go about on the boat, don't you?
Yeah.
And you've been so yeah. I bet it's a real culture shock, and especially now more than ever with everything that's kind of changing. I mean, it's changed so much, hasn't it, in the last even just the last 20 years? But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I've been out. I've been out of England for about 8 months. And I can already see changes from when I left.
yeah, yeah.
Getting better.
No, it's not. Even I was laughing at the, well, not laughing at the beginning, but I said, like I mean, I know captain's a title, but we let, without getting into all that. But I was like, a captain will go down with her ship, and I was like, and that's, I know it's shipping terms and maritime terms. Don't be sending me emails about it. So then I was just like, but now I'm thinking, retreat, retreat. It's getting that bad.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
retreat to Mexico, retreat to Thailand, like just retreat somewhere else. Like, not that I won't come back and fight the last great battle, like, but I do kind of feel like that a bit sometimes. Like, I don't want to see it go down, but I keep seeing
Mm.
it go down more and more
It's
and more.
already
So,
it's already
what would
it's
you
already
say are
gone
the main?
down.
Yeah, what would you say that are the things that stick out the most? Do you think when you come back?
Um,
The Wednesday.
well, the first thing is when you get off the plane and leave the airport, you get one of
Yeah.
them. Bit of this freezing cold. That's the first thing that gets me every time. Yeah, I'm not good.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
a black man on the inside. I'm not good in cold weather.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
good.
See, I can't really do the heat, so I'm kind of the other way around. It's kind of
Mm,
if it's too warm, I'm typically quite British. But we know they're doing the weather modifications, etc., and so on. So I do believe that it's been in the national media now about the fact that
yeah.
they've admitted that they have been seeding the clouds, and it does seem, doesn't it, that all those crazy tinfoil hat wearers are all I mean, it's been happening for quite a few years now. We've all been proven
Yeah.
right, but
Yeah.
it just seems more and more and more each day, and some of it goes over people's heads, doesn't it? It can be mentioned on the national news, doesn't mean that it actually sinks in. It's that it just
Mm,
bounces
yeah.
off other people's heads. But
Yeah.
I think there is a bit of a tip and a turn. I think people are. I've had people contact me, Paul, after we interviewed John O'Looney, and I suppose that's a bit of a different audience because we do quite a lot of the occult stuff, and we
Mm,
are very niche in a way, really. But yeah, some of the stories where people are telling me, like, really powerful, where they've been, double jibbed, and so has the whole family. They've jibbed and jabbed the children, and now they're going, oh my God, what have I
yeah.
done? This
Yeah.
fella is, hole in the heart, having a stroke. Same with her friends fellas, and I hate to say the but and people are starting to turn, I think.
Mm,
But they're ready
yeah.
for that as well, really, aren't they?
The game's planned long in advance.
Yeah,
It's they'll
exactly.
do what they do. We take a year or two to discover it, and they're already past that. They know what we're going to do and all the rest of it, and they put countermeasures and countermeasures and all sorts in place by the time we eventually discover what they've done. Um,
Yeah.
but there is actually a method and a plan for what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm completely the opposite way to everybody else. Most people think that they want to kill us all off.
Yeah.
And I'm completely the opposite on that.
All
They've
right.
got a purpose. There's a purpose. I'm about to start writing. I'm doing the audio files for the new book, so it's on Audible. But as soon as that's out of the way, I'm going to start writing my next book, which is not about
Yeah.
debt and law and legislation.
Yeah.
It's about the big picture, and it's hard to say it without coming across as being pompous. But that's the last thing I am. I'm just nosy, and I want to know what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And using, have you heard of the trivium and quadrivium?
No.
Oh God, everybody needs to get those books. Everybody needs to get those books. They're old. They're written by Sister Mary Joseph. And I'll
Not
try
just
and
Mary
encapsulate.
Joseph.
Well, yeah. Never shoot the messenger. But I'll try and encapsulate it as quickly as I possibly can. But there's two types of education system running in the world these days. There's the classic education system, and there's the Prussian education system. Well, we get the Prussian education system, and your elites and your politicians and money people get the classical system. And the difference between the two is that the Prussian education system teaches you what to think. The classical education system teaches you how to think.
Yeah, they
There's
don't
a
want
massive
that.
difference. So I've learned that system as well, and that's available in the trivium and quadrivium. So I mean, I read those years ago, and as a result of that, it sort of it opened a lock in my mind as to how to think, not what to think. And then based on that, this is where you start learning the real stuff that's going on. So this next book, what I think I've done is I think I've figured out what the whole game is.
Yeah.
Why we're here.
Okay, well, you go first, and then I'll go because I think I've got an interesting theory about this too. Go on, hit me. I'm intrigued.
Well, okay, it's what's the only thing you leave this life with?
Your consciousness.
Yeah. Well, you can't take your money, you can't take your possessions, you can't take your family, you can't take anything apart from experience.
That's true. Yeah, that's
the only
true.
thing you get out of it with. So what's the purpose of life? Using logic and rhetoric and reasoning, the purpose of life has to be to collect experience.
Yeah.
So to step back from that, how do you ensure that you get experience in this life? How do you make sure that you're not the guy with a white picket fence living on a farm and nothing changes in your life from beginning to end?
Is that guy single?
Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to do that? But the way you guarantee,
my life's too exciting some days. Maybe I could just go there for a break.
The way you guarantee getting all this experience is to have a system whereby certain people work for us in creating all this experience.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that. I can get behind that really. I suppose like a lot of people in that theory maybe like would call it like an earth school, like that's what 3D this place is. To kind of collect this experience and collect these lessons and grow our souls and individuate our consciousness. And I suppose there's consciousness and subconsciousness, but I think when you die, those merge back. Maybe we get recycled back in here. I mean, who knows? One thing I've said, Paul, is I think that I remember past lives, so I'm either nuts or I'm correct. But again, I can't prove that to other people. And you know, in the law, as we know, it's he who makes the claim has to provide the evidence. And I've come to this conclusion, right? I think everything's a narrative, and I think everything's a dream story, and I think everything's a state of consciousness at that point. So I'm heavily like at the moment, and we're just about to release the first episode of the second series of the main podcast into this idea of Albion, you know, Albino is England, and the, you know, Scotland and Edinburgh is the Holy Land, the proper Jerusalem, and Ireland is Atlantis. Now, I'm not saying that I'm right, but we can pull this proverbial thread of it, and I find it super, super interesting. And I think what that does is heightens my consciousness in my own way, in my own experience.
Mm,
And I think the
mm,
fact that they get us arguing over who's right, over what narratives what, and I mean that's the true con of it. So everyone might watch that video and go, Carly's talking shite. But I'm like, that's okay, brother. I can talk shite just as you know, we could all talk shite.
yeah,
So
yeah,
why can't we just all love each other whilst we all have our own way of, like my nana
yeah.
used to say, and I've said it a few times on the Zooms in the network, we're all trying to get to the same place on a different buzz. That's what my nana Haslam used to say. And I think that's the most profound thing of all the books I've read, the
Mm,
Tibetan books of the dead, whatever they are. My
mm,
nana Haslam, I think, nailed it right. And if as
yeah,
long as we're kind of on our different buzzes, but going, your buzz is shit, then
yeah,
we're
yeah,
not going anywhere as a collective. Like, so
mm,
that's what I've
yeah,
nailed it down to, I think. It's just like I'm
yeah.
laughing at
It's
it with my
like
popcorn going, what
it's like
next?
plasterers arguing over who's got the best float. Still gets
Yeah,
the
yeah,
plaster on the
exactly.
wall.
I think that's it. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're definitely right. And I mean, we interviewed a guy who talked about scripted reality. So I think it's a bit paradoxical. I think we do come down to a bit of a script, hence scripture. That's what we're in. Hence revelation, the great
Mm,
reveal. All this is being
mm,
revealed to us now.
mm,
Now you're either going to take that knowledge and ascend your consciousness with it, or you're not. And that's
mm.
your choice, isn't it?
Well,
And I think you do have a
it
choice
depends where you are. I think it depends where you are, as regarding how many
there.
times you've actually been round. Because if you don't collect all the experience that you came for, when you get
Yeah.
back there, you're back onto the menu. Right, what do I need next?
I
What's
think that, yeah,
So you come
I can
back,
get behind you.
and I think once you've collected all the experience that's available in this realm, then you don't need to come back anymore, and you go to a different one.
Yeah, yeah. It fits in with the law of one and my studies of that. Like, I
Mm.
definitely, I had three light beings at the end of the bed without going too woo on everyone's hot bottoms this morning, but this dawning. But came to tell me that I was a sixth density, come down to aid and assist and all this. Now, again, you might think I was half asleep or mental, but it was as more lucid than any lucid dream. It was as real as I can kind of see you now, and it
Yeah.
stuck with me obviously for a very long time. As long, like, I think we touched on it last time, didn't we, Paul? Because we were talking about debt and the book, but we said we'll
Mm.
have to come back on because towards the end we were off on these kind of talks, isn't it? So I think it's
Yeah,
really
yeah,
cool that you did that book because I'm doing a book, and do you know what's interesting? Your book might be different to mine, but I bet you any money there'll be similar themes in it and it'll have got us to a
yeah,
similar point of consciousness. And
yeah,
that's, for me, the key. Stop arguing.
yeah,
We all just stop arguing with each other.
yeah,
The division, then it's done. They're done.
yeah.
As a collective, I think.
You know Dave, don't you? Allegedly Dave.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I've not met him, but I know who he is. Yeah.
Right, right. Well, I mean, years ago, we were both involved in arresting a judge in his own court in Birkenhead. It's like 20 years ago now. But since that point, about 3 or 4 years after that point, we were both writing the exact same book,
Yeah.
exactly, and it even had the same name. And it
Yeah.
was just, and I only found out when I sort of came to doing all the final edits and things like that. I found Dave's book already published, and I thought, what are the chances of that? I mean, even the same title, the same content, it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
bizarre, really weird.
That is strange. And I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of it happening. Like I say, I suppose it's like how different cultures,
Mm,
explain the flood myth in a myriad of
mm,
different ways. They might use
mm,
different names, they might use different language, they might tell it in a different vehicle of a story,
mm.
but it's still a narrative
Yeah.
and I call it again like the 12 blind men and the elephant that it's like an old proverb, old Indian proverb,
I
where they
don't
get
know that
12
one.
blind men feeling an elephant. One guy's going to go, oh, it's like a big rock. It's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
rock. It's
yeah,
one
yeah.
guy's going to go, it feels like my ex-wife's oofs. I don't know. But anyway, they all explain it in a different way. And in the end, they're all explaining the same thing. Just
I
like we just love
lose
and
that
hug each
mental
other.
image now.
I know. I think I wouldn't
Well,
say
where
it
does
gets
the mouse
worse.
come from? Where's the mouse? How does one guy come up with a mouse?
I don't
Is he
know.
facing the wrong way and feeling something else or something? 11 of
Very
them are
possible.
full of an elephant, and he's got hold of a mouse.
Exactly. But yeah, and I think yeah, there's all these stories, and I think narratives and narratives move consciousness. That's what I've got to, and that's why they, like you said, I think just earlier, we're doing it to ourselves really, because all
Yeah,
they do is set off the narratives, and we
yeah.
live them out.
Mm,
And they know that. So
mm,
again, like we're all gonna die, they're coming for us. Everyone goes round, we're all gonna die, they're coming from us. You're repeating it like a
yeah,
mantra.
yeah.
It's
And
like, so
how many times have every culture said the end of the cabal is nigh?
yeah, yeah.
And yet
And how's
here
it?
they are. Here they are. They're still here. And it's
Exactly.
because they're working for us. That's what it is. They're working for us.
Yeah, yeah.
Might not feel
I
like it
think
at the
so.
time.
I've said that at that higher echelon of it.
Mm,
A lot of these, bloodlines that, we
mm,
talk about, and I do
mm,
talk about them. And
mm,
a big theme of this, like I say, this year coming of everything we record is literally what I've just been saying without repeating myself. Because what's hilarious is again this argument over which story is correct when really the essence of them are all the same. It's that authenticity and love, man.
mm,
But
mm,
I think that there is in that dark nobility where they don't forget their past lives. They
no,
remember, and we just don't. And actually, at the real high levels, they've come here to be as dark as possible to because we've got
mm,
lost in the dream and we've forgotten. So
mm,
they're going, look, and I think that's why it gets so ridiculous out
mm.
there because they're literally telling you the whole
Yeah,
plan and
yeah,
game.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
kind of like, and they're still not getting it.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I've sort of come to the point now where I'm starting. Well, I'm not starting. I have sort of accepted that this place is running exactly perfectly.
Yeah, yeah.
It's doing exactly what it was made to do. Um, and I'm a bit sort of wary that if we all figure it out, they're going to
What
push the
happens?
reset button because
Well,
it's not going to work
that's
anymore, is it?
you're completely on the same page as me. So that's what I'm saying. The reset. It's
Mm,
spiritual. It's about
mm,
time. They
mm,
know, and I think they put their consciousness into different avatars. They've still got that technology from and that's why I'm deep diving Atlantis, but in a way that isn't perhaps that kind of Vatican Greco kind of And
mm, mm,
again, it's funny really because I'd said out loud, I really need a guy who knows about Albion being like the Holy Land and all that kind of stuff. And it's that manifesting, isn't it? And I spoke it out loud, and then I went on
mm,
and I was interviewed on a show, and then a guy called Neil Bentley got in touch with me, and he just knew all this, and I was just like
mm,
blown away by him. By his
mm.
own admission, he's a bit aspergic. He's worked out the puzzle of it, and he's done it for 25 years. Now, again, I'm not saying he's right, but it's super,
Yeah,
super interesting. And I think
yeah,
that's what they do. The floods, the cataclysms, that's what resets it, and they know when they're coming.
yeah, yeah.
We
But then
don't.
there's soft resets as well, where they just remove all the adults and leave the children.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen things like that
Yeah,
with
have you heard
images
about the
in.
orphan trains in the
Yeah, the
1800s?
orphan.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my
Well, you've got
God,
to
we're gonna
ask,
have to
well,
do.
where have the
Yeah,
parents gone?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Seen it. Yeah, and for those that don't know, the orphan trains. If I'm getting this right, in fact, you tell it, Paul, because you'll probably tell it better. I've seen a couple of videos.
I bet I won't. I
Yeah.
bet I won't tell it better. No, the orphan trains with just these trains arriving in stations of more or less deserted towns. The
Yeah.
and they were just full of children, and they were sort of disheveled and scruffy and needed feeding and all the rest of it. And the adults in the town, which there weren't many of for some reason, he took them in. They sort of they fostered them and brought them up, etc. So these kids very quickly forgot where they'd come from in their past life, and this was their new life because kids are malleable. And all of this sort of high tech. What did Martin Leakey call it? Um, Antiquitech, the stuff that was way
Mhm.
beyond what we've got. That was all
Yeah.
forgotten, and the kids just slotted into the new life and became reduced in functional capacity as we were till we realised.
Yeah.
And they sort of created the new generation. But I've got this question of where are the adults? Where did they go? Because they've not found any mass graves or anything like that. So then you sort of get into, well, maybe they were colonizing new territories,
Mm.
but outside of what we know.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it goes on and on and on, and it's all conjecture. You know, the only evidence that there is that
yeah,
dozens, millions, hundreds, I don't know how many, but lots and lots of orphan kids arrived. That's the
yeah.
evidence. That's well reported. But everything else is just conjecture. But the fact is, it happened. And
I start turning into one of those nodding dogs when my brain starts going, and I've got to be careful I don't do it on camera because I've
I
spotted
do
myself doing it a couple of times,
one of
especially when
them.
I'm relaxed. I'm like, really
Mm,
getting into it, and I'm going,
mm.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
do. I do it. I do it.
Because I'm just like, and another thing is whether it's a bit of a dyspraxic tick of mine, when I'm really concentrating, I do this, I look up. So it makes it look like I'm like kind of going, like I've completely zoned out to what people are
Yeah,
saying, but
yeah,
I'm actually hyper focusing on what they're saying. So
yeah.
I have to kind of
But
be careful of that.
you stood at school for that? No, no, because they never said anything interesting to make you do that, did they?
Well, that's it, innit? I always say to people, if you were the one scribbling on your pencil case and staring out the window, then you
Yeah,
have won the game, my friend. You've won the game because it just went, it didn't
yeah,
kind of wash, did it?
yeah,
Well, like you
exactly.
say, there's so many in the unusual kind of odd tales. We
Yeah,
we know that they've got rid of our history, and like you say, these it's a
yeah,
good way to put it, really, actually, like a soft reset. Because yeah, I think you're
yeah,
completely correct. So
yeah.
they can't have that knowledge being passed down
Mm.
ancestrally for every 100 years either, can they? So it
Well,
does
it
seem apparent.
accumulates, doesn't it? If all this knowledge gets passed down, it also grows and gets added to and gets refined. And pretty soon you've figured the game out. At
Yeah.
which point you need a hard reset because all the humans in the world know what's going on, and they're not going to get what they came for.
And I'm going, it's just really refreshing, actually. Just someone, it's really cool to no, I'm surrounded by amazing people who think very similar to me. I'm not like
Yeah,
demanding complete subservience from people. But I'm
yeah,
kind of like, I'm listening to it, I'm going, yeah, like, oh God, it gets weirder, doesn't it? But it's interesting that we're both at the same point with it, along with many other people that are
mm,
all starting to
mm,
go, hang on a minute, what is
mm.
this reset? And either we're all crazy, but they tend to be the most intelligent people that are out there talking. So I don't think that's what it is. I know genius is close to madness, and I'm not calling us a genius if the state of the option, but
Won't dare
kind of like it's
claim
a
either.
genius in seeing through it, I suppose. Like I
Yeah,
don't mean like, oh god, I'm a
yeah.
genius, but just that capacity and ability to critically think outside the proverbial, Saturnian box, in it.
It's not genius and it's not madness. I mean, before you could tell the time, it was the most abstract concept you could ever imagine. Looking at this thing
Yeah,
with numbers on, with arrows moving around it. What the hell? How do you work that out? Once you learn it, you've learned it, but that's not genius. That's just learning it. So
yeah,
it's going to be
yeah,
the same with all this. I mean, we're just getting bits and pieces all over the place, and we're putting them into a puzzle, and we haven't even got the size of the frame yet. So,
no,
it's not genius. I don't think it's
no.
diligence. I think is what it is. It's determination to get to the answer, which is just as I define myself, nosy people.
Yeah.
It's nothing
Well,
more.
and I said it the other day, I'm just a gobby bird from Bolton. People go, I'm speaking out. And I'm like, well, I don't know how to do anything else. I just record it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
and some people like it, and some people think, shut this woman up, I'm sure. But that's okay too.
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's I always say there's that kind of think in the past we'll have been seen as a little bit wacky and mad, but like what we said at the beginning, our tinfoil hats aren't looking so crazy now to people, are they? We've
Well, I
been
mean,
correct.
there can't be many more conspiracy theories to come true.
I don't think so. And did you see when they sneakily let that CIA paper out saying we lived in a hologram? I mean, it's a bit old, that one now,
Yeah,
really. But
yeah.
have you seen that? So they admit it. Like whether they're doing that and
Mhm.
that's a double bluff, maybe. I mean, who knows? But like we know they have to give you at least 70% of the truth and mix it
Mm,
in with the nonsense if
yeah.
it's that much.
Well,
The
I got to a point, probably 5 years ago or more, where I just withdrew from all the conspiracy stuff.
yeah,
And I just I made a conscious decision to stop jumping down rabbit holes and losing my life to them. And I just really made the decision to no, I'm gonna live my life. And this is before I realized that, well, I'm actually here to collect experiences, not watch somebody else's stuff on YouTube or fall down a rabbit hole with this, that, and the other book. I'm actually here to do my own thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And that's what
it,
like Logan would say from scripted reality is like, I suppose you're coming out from being an NPC if you've kind of gone along with everything and
mm,
you're watching their narratives
mm,
and you're responding to their stories. It's about turning around and creating your own
mm,
stories. And that's when
mm,
they start to lose that element of control more, which is why
mm,
they're like, look at this, look at this, look at that, look at that.
mm,
Don't be looking at yourself and thinking, what do I want
mm.
to do actually? What's that got to do with you? You know, because then that
Exactly.
does
I mean,
start.
at the end of the day, all the
Algorithm.
conspiracy theories and all the rest of it,
Yeah,
they've got bugger all to do with us and our lives. It's a
yeah,
case,
yeah,
live your life.
yeah.
Okay, cursory. Don't get involved. Don't dive in the rabbit hole. Yeah, okay, that's fine. I acknowledge that. But just live your life. That's what we're here to do.
Yeah.
Just this is
And I think it is that
why I bought a boat and buggered off to the Med.
I'm gonna say
Because
keep
that's
threatening to
what I'm
do
here
something
for.
similar to account sales. That's probably quite dangerous. But if I could.
Yeah,
But
we did have a few hairy times. I can tell you, it wasn't all plain sailing. Give the pun. It
oh,
was.
yeah, I bet. I mean the ocean or
What
the
I mean,
sea or whatever you call it, it's like
what if I bought and sails the northern in the middle of winter?
yeah. Good work, Paul.
It was crazy.
We like a challenge, don't we? But again, you know, that's that part of it, really. Sometimes I think, bloody hell, I don't make my life easy in ways. But then I think, but that's the challenge, isn't it? You know, a ship in the harbour is safe, but that's not what ships
Mm,
are made for. You know,
no,
you've
no.
got to go and test yourself on the high seas,
Mm,
haven't you? Maybe not
mm.
literally. I mean, I was always talking figuratively, but
Yeah,
you've literally done it as well. So that's brilliant, you know.
yeah, I
As
did,
above,
and
so
I
below, and
did.
all that.
I did test myself for sure. I did, but I
Yeah, yeah.
passed.
Yeah, that's it, so isn't it? And it does, as you know, even talking in a kind of long dark night of the soul, never mind being on the high seas, but it does turn you into a stronger character. I think sometimes it
Mm.
can give you bit of PTSD I've worked through, but other than that, I think also a bit of PTSD in the apocalypse between friends, I say, so
So
keeps you on your toes.
when you've seen lightning hit the water 80 meters from the side of your boat,
I would shit
that's
myself, honestly,
well,
and I'm
yeah.
pretty tough,
Do you
but
know,
being on the sea,
I
I
text
could
because I'd sent my daughter home at that point. When we got to Rome, it was just a bit too hairy, and I'd sent them home. They weren't having any fun. So me and my buddy
yeah.
skippered it down from Rome downwards and right across the Eastern Med. And when this lightning hit the water, he was asleep because we were having to manually helmet. We were doing 2 hours on, 2 hours off, and that is a killer because we'd broken everything. So I was sat there like 4 a.m. one morning, and I just happened to look to the right, and I could see all the pink lightning in the clouds. And you know, we're in the middle of the sea, we're higher point with the mast, and I'm thinking it's not an if, it's a when this strikes us. And then this lightning hit the water, all the sea boiled up and everything with the sound. So straight away on the little bit of signal that I had, I'm texting my daughters my passwords to my bank accounts and all this. And I'm saying,
Oh, a good
don't
time.
take this
Just
the
about
wrong
the
way.
time. Yeah, girls. Get in the bank account. A
Well,
great time.
I really thought I wasn't going to get back because it was getting hairy. And my daughter said that was the worst text I've ever received in my life. But
Like,
I was just making sure they were all right. That was
oh,
crazy.
that's so sweet. But yeah, that's got yeah. I can only imagine. You know,
Yeah.
Have you ever been where you've got like the waves, like and the
Oh
huge
yeah,
and the crashing?
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my
It was
days!
like
I've
it
seen
was
those
like we
things
were in
on
a
the
washing
TV.
machine.
That's scary.
Yeah, it was like being in a washing machine sometimes. And
Oh
my
yeah, I
mate that was
bet.
with me, he's a hardcore. He goes up the Arctic, and he said, "Oh, what are you talking about? This is nothing." Whilst he's being thrown all over the place, this is nothing. I said, "Okay, it is to me."
I always did love the rubber dinghy rapids at Alton Towers, so it always
Yeah,
just makes me think of something like that, just being
yeah,
completely like swirled around. But yeah, well done you for making it back in one piece and your
yeah,
and said friend.
yeah.
I can only imagine. I used to surf not very well.
Mm,
Not
mm.
bigging myself as up as any champion surfer, but
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I got myself into some hairy scrapes in the
yeah.
water just doing. But yeah, it's
Same,
so powerful.
same in
So I'm
Sydney.
going to ask
I've
the
got.
question now.
Well,
What everyone's probably wondering: is
when are we
the
going
Earth
to get
flat?
on the book?
After this one,
Is that the
keep
question?
flat from sailing because obviously
Of
you're
course it is.
navigating the globe and
Of course it's flat. I've never ever seen curved water. Never.
no, no, I can't say I have to be fair. Well, there we go. You've heard it here first.
And
So the
I
book,
still speak to sailors, and I say, but you live on a globe, right? Despite having seen 360-degree views of perfectly flat horizon. And they say, oh, yeah, yeah, we live on a globe.
just like yeah, that level of it. I think without getting too deep into this, but because it's like a huge thing again that I don't get involved in, but I do think that it's as she says, I don't get involved in this, but this is what I think.
But here we are
So
getting
I
involved.
yeah, but I'm going to get involved. So I think it's a sphere. I think we live in a sphere rather than on one, but I think it is like flat disc, but in a spherical kind of casing with an inner earth. That's how I think it's kind of a bit of everything. And apparently, if you kind of chase a rainbow or the sun in perspective terms, and you perhaps know this more than anybody being a sailor, you can never catch it, can you? It moves as you move, and apparently they did
But
this science
no, you can
and
sail through rainbows. But
yeah.
as you're going through them, you don't see all the colours. They
No.
just
Did
become
you find
smaller
the end of
rainbows.
one?
Always.
Did you with a pot of gold and a
Oh,
leprechaun?
there's no pot of gold. There's a cheeky little leprechaun laughing his head off at you though.
Oh yeah. Well, I know, and that's a whole different topic, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
Ireland was Atlantis, but let's not go there either. So anyway, but the book, yeah.
Yes, the
So
book.
it's because obviously last time we had a good chat because I became aware of your book, How to Get Out of Debt Without Paying a Single Penny,
But that's
and
not
we
the
had a chat.
title. The title is unimportant.
Oh yeah, the title's an important. The tagline's How to Get Out with Debt.
Yeah, yeah,
I should
yeah,
never go out to London. I've fried my brain.
yeah.
'Cause I'm
Easily
too
done.
old for that. But yes, yes, yes. So this one, I remember you saying, and obviously I've not read it yet, so but I will do. And this is kind of giving that kind of element to it of going after them, I suppose, and counterclaiming. Is that am I getting that's what the big stick is,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
we know?
With the big stick, it lays out what's going on and what has happened since you made an agreement with the bank or the credit card company and all the rest of it.
Yeah,
And whilst using the method there does actually push them back because we're offering
yeah,
conditional agreement. So once you've done that, they can't go to court with it because the judge just pulls his glasses down and says, well, you've got an agreement to pay here. Have you done what they're requesting? So, they wouldn't bother. They wouldn't go to court very rarely. But some do, and not a real court, but that's a different story. But I was
yeah,
always left with um, it was a case of I needed to get people out of the fix that they were in, and this all came from the lockdowns and all that nonsense, because I could see
yeah,
all these people getting into trouble. They're losing their jobs. They get not getting furloughed. They're not getting payments, and things are falling apart quickly. So I wrote the book there to put the fire out if anybody was getting all this aggro from debt collectors and banks and all the rest of it through not being able to pay the loan back. So it did that job fine and does do that job fine. But then I had this sort of niggle in the back of my mind that, hang on a minute, we need to actually take these guys to task, and get the situation corrected, get the record corrected, because they've done us a commercial damage. So
yeah.
what I did was, it all came out of conversations with John Kelso, and this guy's just he's a reading whore. He goes through everything, and it's like fine tooth comb stuff. So he's gone through loads and loads of these 8-inch thick doorstep legal manuals that they have in the court. And the barristers, I've got a couple now. The barristers have got them, all the legal team, everybody's got them. And he's gone through all that, and he's gone through it like a terrier.
Yeah,
And so it came from that, and he said, well, there needs to be a new book now with all this information on how to actually give them a good knock for what they've done, which is
yeah,
obviously where the title came from. Um, because
Yeah.
it literally is a big stick. So he's doing all that, and I'm going through the absolutely salacious, fantastic task of going through all the legislation on the government websites. I mean, have you tried
Yeah.
reading that stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So I've been through all that for the last 2 years. What it's boiled down to is there is remedy, and it's right there in front of us, but it's a hell of a job to get to. So I've just cherry picked all the stuff that's applicable to our situation with debt and credit cards, and I've boiled it down to layman's English, which is I don't know my skills. So it's all there in that book now, and you've got a series of there's probably nine or ten very strong areas of legislation that these guys are breaching on a regular basis, on a daily basis,
yeah.
to millions of people. Um,
Yeah.
and it comes complete with its own remedy when you read the
Yeah.
legislation. So we've got like probably nine or ten, I don't know, areas of legislation that we can absolutely go after them on, based on all the
Yeah.
research John's done from the legal doorsteps and all the research that I've done from the legislation. So I've basically condensed it all and set it out as a step-by-step method to actually go after these guys. Now, as I've
Yeah.
said in the book, and I've said the same in other interviews, at this it's theoretical because I've not done it. John, we're doing it now, but we've nothing's come back yet. So it's all theoretical, but it's got the massive added benefit of being taken directly from legislation and law. So
Yeah.
whilst the process is theoretical, the basis is absolutely rock solid because it's coming from
Yeah.
legislation and law. So yeah, I mean,
Well, and it's holding them to account by their own rules because they're breaking
yes,
their own rules in a myriad of
yes,
different,
yes,
aren't they? So
yeah. I mean,
it's not it's
the
like
system itself, the system of legislation and the law stuff is brilliant. I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh, it needs scrapping and all the rest of it." No, it doesn't. It's perfect. It's been worked at for about 800 years, pushing and pulling at
yeah,
things, and it is perfect. Unfortunately, it's been hijacked. That's the problem. So what we
yeah,
need to do is hold their feet to the fire and put them back on the rails of law and legislation because it's there for us. But
yeah,
through education and all the rest of it, obviously we're not learning how to think, we're learning what to think. We don't know how to read legislation. And it's the hardest thing in the world if you're coming at it from a Prussian education perspective. It's really difficult.
yeah,
So basically all we need to do is bring it back to law. And once it's brought back to law, they can't argue because, as you said, it's their own game, it's their own system.
yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
how we
that's
fix
super
it.
interesting. So, and I think that's the thing, and it's like what the Baron used to say to me. Why does nobody can get it? Nothing's ever signed. Like he used to like jump up and down like with the Companies Act, and he's like, it's ever signed. They don't sign anything. So that's
Yeah.
like a huge one, isn't it? Like just as an example.
Mm.
What would you give us as if you could give one example from the book, say, of something that kind of nails them to the ground? We don't want to give all the secrets away of the book, but if you
Well,
could,
the biggest revelation for me, I mean, you read all the legislation, and there's a breach of this and a breach of that, and then there's recommendations for how to deal with it and what the penalties are, basically.
yeah,
But the biggest one that was full on news to me was the Data Protection Act.
right,
And
yeah,
if you're just a medium sized company, like let's say a debt collector,
yeah,
um, the minimum fine that the ICO
yeah,
will fine them is 17.5 million quid, right?
yeah. It's
If you're a
huge.
bank or a big
Mm.
organization with a huge annual turnover, then your fine goes up to 4% of your annual turnover. That's
Yeah,
just
that's right.
that's the DPA alone. That's just the
Yeah,
Data
yeah,
Protection Act, and it was just what?
yeah,
So then
yeah,
there's 8 or 9 other areas of legislation that we've got to go at as well. So this is
yeah.
a big deal. It's a really
It's
big
so
deal.
powerful, isn't it? It's
Mm.
so powerful to do it like that. I mean, I've just brought a DSAR course in the network because obviously DSAR is such a huge tool, and for people listening, that is the
Mm.
Data Protection Act, GDPR, freedom of information, because again, you can box them into a corner by asking the right questions. And like you said, then going to the ICO, etc., and so on, or going for a counterclaim, etc. You're creating your court of record. You can, collecting all these misdemeanors,
It's
and
your
we're
case
asking the
file,
right
isn't it?
questions.
You're building a case file.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think a lot of people think that the court is the courtroom, but we know administrative courts, are all the nonsense. The court is the paperwork, isn't it? That's what people are
Yeah,
showing. That's what we're showing.
yeah, yeah. The,
Um,
the, the court
and
is the tennis match between parties. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a building called a court with judges and magistrates. The court is
and
the game that you play between your adversary.
yeah, and a judge can't interfere in commerce. He can't interfere once that's agreed, and you're into your
Well,
affidavits, and you put it back into the public jurisdiction.
judges
Then
judges can interfere in commerce if they're bonded to do so. But what they can't interfere in is private law. And everything we're doing in the book is creating private law. So
yeah,
at that point,
that's
it's way above the judiciary, their level.
yeah, that's right. So we're operating from the private, but then we're just giving it teeth in the public. So we're using the legislation with the teeth
Yeah,
at the end just to give it
yeah.
that. That's what they recognise in it, that system. So
Mm.
you're going from private, you caught a
I'm not
record,
going from
and
private. I'm not going
no,
from private. No,
do it that way.
I'm very proudly putting on the person and
Yeah, yeah.
going at them with the person.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, the thing is, legal can only recognise legal, can't it? So the
Mm,
kind of way I do
mm,
it is, it's private, but your person's personal representative. So
mhm.
you're still using the fiction. You're just kind of slightly making a distinguish on the paperwork. However,
Mm,
sometimes like, to do it that way is, you're not getting into that, because they say sometimes that
mm.
can piss a judge off if he sees it, because they
Yeah,
don't
yeah. I
like
mean,
dealing.
I don't get into the man versus the person. I don't get into that. Not with this game. If they're coming at me with a claim, then I'll take the coat off. Then I'm the man. But for this, in order to get
Yeah,
it into the system, you need to be the person. And the happy thing about all of that is that they've broken the rules that persons are
exactly.
required to follow. Um, that's it. That's the be all and end all of the game. They've broken their own
Yeah.
rules.
And then we can turn the game around on them.
Yeah,
We can send the
yeah,
bailiffs in on
yeah,
them.
yeah. Well, the beauty of
Blame
it is, the beauty of it
that
is that the system can't be allowed to be seen failing. So
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
producing all these rules that the system wrote, and they've broken them. And now the system can't just let them get off with it, because that's an admission then that it's just a load of nonsense, and that we're actually living under non-governance, because it can't apply to us and not to them, because we're all equal under law.
yeah,
So
yeah, precisely.
they can't show it failing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's it. And that's why I've done the debt. I've got the debt course in our network, the DSAR course, direct debits, all you name it. Because once
Mm,
you kind of understand, like we've said before, isn't it? Once you understand economic bankings, even just to a basic level, I'm no
mm.
economist, but we get the game,
Oh,
and
why
then
would you
it's
want to
for
be?
us to finish the game, isn't it?
Why would you want to be an economist? Has an
That's
economist ever been right? Have they ever been right ever?
no, I mean, I mean, it's incredulous, isn't it? Really, but I totally get it, because people are just completely programmed and brainwashed and told stuff from uni, and then they take it into the world, and the beat just perpetually goes on, isn't it? But I
Russian
remember having a
education system.
yeah, and
It doesn't
yeah,
serve us.
it's
It really
really
doesn't serve us.
no. So that's what's good, I think. It's like what you said. It's trying to just break something down, making a lot of, like we said last time, complicated information, or certainly, like you said, people that we've been educated
Mm,
as proles and pursers, and
mm,
in a Prussian manner. I've not heard
mm,
that term before, and it's just unlearning what we've learned, isn't it? So I think
mm,
that's what you do with the books. It's giving people a step-by-step way that they can break that down in real
mm.
time, and understand it. You don't have to be a lawyer or spend hours of time in contract law books, but just to get the basics and keep it simple, stupid, as we say,
Always,
and just
always.
yeah.
If it if
Because
it's
I
if
always
it's not simple, then it's nearly 100% not true. If it's
Yeah,
getting complicated, then it's complicated because somebody doesn't want you to know.
they're bamboozling you.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, a bit of a obfuscation of the mind, as the Baron
yeah,
would say.
yeah.
But yeah, like you say, these things tend to hinge on key points, don't they? As we know with
Mm.
debt and the Data Protection Act, it's such a powerful tool for us to be able to
I
utilize.
didn't
Again, as
realize
some
how powerful.
the gross domestic product is a lot of money. And if imagine we all just start getting these processes and getting people to get these processes right, what a kick in the nuts for
Mm,
them.
mm. Yeah,
But
yeah,
we've got to kind of do that. Give it teeth, whack them with a big stick, as
exactly,
you'd say.
exactly. Yeah, just hard enough not to kill them, but to wake them up a bit and make them realize that we do actually have teeth, and we're not afraid to
Yeah.
bear them. If we've been rolled so many times, we've got to fight back. We've got to do something.
I think I don't know. Have you seen? He was on Richard Vogue's show. I'm going to try and get him on the show. I think he was called Gary something, ex-policeman. I don't know if you've seen the
Yes.
video. Yeah, was he'd find out that, obviously we know that they register them at companies' house and turn them also,
Yeah.
MPs turn themselves into corporations, etc. But he's kind of uncovered the fact that they've not even been registering themselves properly, have they? like it's a shock horror. But I
Well,
need to
so
watch the video. I shouldn't have perhaps brought it up because I don't really know what I'm talking about. But I was just thinking as you were talking, that's kind of super interesting. I'll have to try and get him on if he'd be willing.
mm,
Because it calls out the whole thing, like you said, Paul, it's lawless out there because everything's kind of gone down in that sense
well,
anyway. Because
it's not
for us to kind
lawless
of
because
ah,
they're very happy to apply it to us. So there's
oh yeah,
something working. So it's not lawless. It's just it doesn't apply to them. Um,
no,
but 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 we
well,
the
but it
people
does.
can make it apply to them because it's like the what's it called, that movie with the ants and the grasshoppers.
Yeah,
Do you know which one I
yeah,
mean? I mean,
yeah,
there's more of us than them,
yeah,
and
exactly.
if they ever figure that out, we're finished. Our way of life is done. Well, we've figured it out.
Yeah, yeah, and this is it, isn't it? And it is just that distinction. It's not so much, and it can be utilised, like you say. You're creating that court of record, but you are going into the public because they will recognise that paperwork, that commercial paperwork, won't they?
Mm,
But like this malfeasance and misfeasance in office, like the way that they handle the council tax, it's pure misfeasance at the lowest, but it's malfeasance which carries 7 to 10 years in jail for criminal activity, and that's what all these councils are doing. And
mm.
allegedly, that's why a lot of people are leaving these positions. And now, but the thing is, they know what they've been doing at a high level,
Oh
so
God,
it's too
yeah. I
too
mean, they can
late.
they can. It's like this is why bank managers change roles every 4 years. They move around. It seems to be a 4 year cycle.
Same as judges being incumbent in that
Yeah,
sense. It's so they're not in
yeah.
place long enough for you to go and
Circuit
get to
judge,
circuit judges. Yeah,
circuit
yeah, exactly.
judge. He's on the circuit.
Yeah. And as we
It,
know,
do, it
as
doesn't
our
it doesn't
government,
exonerate them though. All these people that have done what they've done, they can move
no,
positions all they want, but it doesn't excuse them and it doesn't stop us going
no.
after them.
No,
And
exactly. And we've just not been shown, we've been taught to sit down, shut up, respect
yeah,
authority, do as you're told, don't think
yeah,
outside the box, be that worker, and isn't
yeah,
it? But
yeah,
time's up, as we say.
yeah. It
Because of
is.
people like, I mean, there's some amazing stuff, isn't there, going on across the, I shouldn't say country because that's corporate, but across the land.
Mm,
And yeah,
yeah.
it's heartwarming to see like these groups. A friend of mine, Stephen Borg, went down into the courts. They're all turning up at the council tax courts now, like with the police hoodies on them. So he sent me one actually in the post. I wear it at the gym. And yeah, there's some brilliant stuff going on where, I mean, Mark
Yeah.
Horn from the Keepers, he's holding the council tax to
Well,
account,
yeah.
doing
I mean, 20 years ago, um, I was involved as Dave, allegedly Dave was involved in a case in Birkenhead, um, from a friend of ours called Roger Hayes, and this
oh
was all
yeah,
yeah, this was all council tax, and
all
this
right.
judge
Yes, I
this
know
judge got
it is.
arrested in the court, and the whole thing went insane. Um, but he'll never work as a judge again because public
Wrote the
confidence
crack,
has
didn't he?
failed in him.
Oh right, yeah,
So,
yeah, of course, yeah.
so yeah,
But
I
I
mean,
know I didn't
it's
know
been
that was
going
that
on a
long because I was
while.
yeah. everyone knows the Roger Haynes case because he did a bit of writing over at UK Column, I think, didn't he? He kind of
Yeah,
went over
yeah. I
the.
mean, Roger's a stand-up dude. I've not spoken to him for years, but yeah, Master Mariner as well.
All right. Oh, cool. We'll have to get Roger on. Let's get him on. Let's get
Yeah.
everyone
Oh,
on.
get Roger
I know.
on. Oh, get Roger on. You'll have your ears
I
pinned
think
back
he'd be
for
up
an
for
hour
that.
straight.
Brilliant. Oh
He's
no, I'd love to if
awesome.
you could put me in touch with him. He'd be
Yeah, no
because a lot of
problem.
know that case, don't they? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, but and I think this is it. This is what's beautiful. That consciousness tip. I always say that if you're not quite ready to take on the banks or your cards or whatever yet, it's just creating that awareness, isn't it? And
Mm,
that's what will tip. That's what's tipping.
mm,
But yeah, if we can kind of hold, we do also need really in the long term to hold these people accountable.
mm.
I was just doing my job. Is
Doesn't fly.
It's not going to wash.
That's what the
No,
Nazis said.
yeah. So obviously you run the Facebook group for the Debt Ninjas Facebook group,
Mhm.
and we'll put the links to both your books below. So if people haven't seen the first one, is there three now? Oh, do you know, I'm a crap researcher, aren't I? So hang on, so there's
Cut this
the
bit
there's
out. Cut this bit out.
I do
Yeah,
apologize.
the
I put
first
all three books down there.
the first book was Poking Crocodiles,
Poking
which
crocodiles. All right. I must have forgot that
it,
one. Right.
it's a novel. It's a novel, and it's just a different way of expressing the same information, really. Um,
All right.
so it's
Crocodiles.
character driven. There's a story, and a lot of people have got a lot out of it because it's a softer way into all the learning.
Oh,
And
that's
quite a few
good.
people say that if you start with Poking Crocodiles, it sets you up for the title is Unimportant.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. So yeah, so it has like a nice, again, it's narratives, isn't it? You're telling
It's a
their tale, and
trinity.
that's it. So, and it's like what we do at Dark Matters. So, obviously brilliant. And if we can all just highlight what each other's doing, and and
Mm,
and and that's
mm,
that's brilliant, and just keep getting the word out. So I will
yeah.
put all three of Paul's books down here. And obviously we do deck courses as well. So if people want to come and find us there or just learn a bit more, we do free lives, we do everything. So yeah, that's, that's it, I think.
Yeah.
Unless
Yeah.
you want to get back into flat earth, but nobody wants to do that this time.
I have to say that I'm not a flat Earth advocate at all.
I'm not
But
around.
well, yeah, exactly. One thing I do know is it's not a sphere. It can't be a sphere.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Well,
definitely.
again, I think the luminaries in that they are spherical, but it's a long one. We won't go there, but yeah, people will have to stay
At the
tuned for
end of
the
the
other
day,
episode.
everything we can say about all of that is conjecture because we
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know.
it is.
What we do
Yeah,
know is
it's true.
the water doesn't bend.
Yeah.
That's what we
We
do
know
know.
that.
And what we do
You
know
don't know
is
you.
that the horizon's flat.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's it. And that's like, going back to how we started at the beginning of the podcast, like we don't know unless I'm going to launch myself into the
Mm.
with a rocket and kind of
Exactly.
let's see it for myself. So I tend to
Exactly.
just go from a direct experience, and that is
I
like you
do.
said, Paul, living life as well. Go
Yeah.
out there, and
Yeah.
if that's not the life you want to be living, because that's somehow been prescribed to you,
Mm.
then switch it up in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Get a boat.
For perspective, though, I would recommend that everybody gets on a boat in the Northern Med in the middle of winter. And that really makes you realize what's what.
And on that note, we should say this isn't legal or financial or boat
Oh,
advice or marining. What's the word being a mariner advice?
marinating.
So yes, don't do
Marinating.
that without any formal training. That's just a
Don't
tip. And
marinate
don't
yourself without being trained.
as much as it would be kind of quite fun. Oh, thanks so much for joining us, Paul. I won't
No
take up any
problem.
more of your time, but it's been really fun talking to you. And yeah, go check out Paul's books. Come check out Dark Matters, and we'll see you next time.
Brilliant.